Our first short talk is being presented by Michael J. Stamper, and I will let Michael introduce that. Let me stop sharing so Michael can share. Alrighty, and just go ahead when you're ready.
Sure thing. Can you hear me okay? Cool, thank you. Okay, can everybody see the screen I'm sharing? Oh wait, never mind, sorry. There's another pop-up window on one of the screens.
I do see a slide with the title.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, I think I'm ready. Okay, well, first of all, thank you for having me speak. This is my first CEDLS, and I'm really happy to be here. I am Michael Stamper. I'm at Virginia Tech, and I'm at the University Libraries, and I am the data visualization designer and consultant for the arts at the libraries. Simply put, I am a library service. And I work with faculty and students in visualizing their data, thinking about different ways how to present their data in visual ways. And as a consultant, that involves a lot of troubleshooting and talking with them about how they want to present their data and different audience types on who needs to see it and where it needs to be seen. So it can range, the amount of projects that I work on ranges from doing simple infographics to the visualization of very large abstract networks. And it just all depends on what they need to see and what they need to communicate for coming up with an effective visualization. But during this process of creating these visualizations, I do try to work in creating the visualization literacy so they know that there are different pieces and parts that make up these effective and meaningful visualizations, and displaying and showing their work and making it impactful to different audiences that need to see it. And over on this slide, you'll see just a list of the things that I kind of do here pretty much daily at Virginia Tech. And at the bottom is an article I wrote with a very blunt title that I am a data visualization designer in an academic library and more. So if you want some more details on some of the different projects that I work on and different aspects and facets of what I do here. My background, I come from a more of a fine arts and design background than a library background. I've worked in libraries at Indiana University, Bloomington, doing mostly data visualization and designy type things for the cyber infrastructure for Network Science Center, and Dr. Kathy Borner, where I was also an exhibit, a science map exhibit co-curator for a Places and Spaces Mapping Science traveling exhibit. But I also taught as an assistant professor of graphic design way up in northern Minnesota. So I'm coming from the visualization and information design with a more arts background instead of a more analytics. Although I do work in both fields as doing analytics and design. Some of the topics I'll cover today, you know, it will be some of the topics I cover when I'm teaching, instructional approaches, some of the best practices I try to integrate in these classes, examples of student activities, and also working in accessibility and tools on using for creating these visualizations. Before coming to Virginia Tech, I did work for the federal government in Research Triangle Park in North Carolina for the NIEHS, where working in Section 508 accessibility ADA guidelines was a very large part of my position as a designer for them. And that's something I bring to Virginia Tech and my clients and patrons. So here's, as you'll notice over on the right, before COVID, a lot of my classes or courses I taught as part of the library were a lot of hands-on, design-based, using a lot of Adobe products in conjunction with visualization software. So there was a lot of taking data, visualizing it, and post-processing it using some form of Adobe product or freeware products, such as Inkscape or GIMP, which are freeware versions of Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop. So you can see they range from creating anything from, again, simple infographics to fictional user interfaces using Adobe After Effects, which was a lot of fun. But now with COVID, I've been regulated to mostly online. So these are all pretty much browser-based, free licenses, such as in the case of Tableau. But I've really had to scale back on some of the topics that I've been able to present effectively online. But throughout all of my workshops, they used to be a lot of hands-on, a lot of learning the vocabulary of design, which also plays into data visualization. I have a slide on that coming up, and also communicating their data information in a visual manner. And of course, having fun. I try to keep my courses very open and free, where people are just free to do whatever they want, and have fun learning. Here's a few of the courses, intro courses. So yeah, again, infographics, creating customized maps, highly stylized networks, which are breaking some of the rules of visualization, but this is what somebody wanted to see, and we have the tools, so we did it. To playing around with creating fictional animated visualizations. And most of my students are STEM based, so when they come in, they get to play with design software and have somebody that lead them through it. It gives them kind of a break from their regular courses, and something fun and creative to play around with and possibly use in their courses or their research later on. So creating this shared visualization and design literacy in my courses, I like to show this simple Venn diagram that, to create effective design pieces and visualizations, they share a lot of the same characteristics, such as the use of color, typography, layout, and anything that all these different aspects that create effective design also play into creating effective visualizations. And one of my other good examples that I like to use to show all these different facets. This is a lot more complicated than my simple Venn diagram on the previous slide, or just this diagram from David McCandless. A couple of his very interesting books are over on the right, but it just shows in a visual manner all of these different aspects and facets that go into creating effective visualizations and pulling out your information, creating a story from it, having a goal on what do you want to show and how do you want to show it, and then coming up with the visual forms. And so all of these things are helping to create and effective visualizations. Another resource I do like to link to in my courses are this one called Data and Design, a simple introduction to preparing and visualizing information. And some of the chapters I do point out are the ones over here on the right, which mainly deal with, again, presentation. And in this book, they have some very minimalist charts that, it creates, there are names for these pieces that when you're creating a chart, you have to have a title, you should have labels, you should have legends. And again, I'm usually working with students that aren't versed in creating charts and visualizations. And if they are, they're mainly created in something like Excel. But these are mainly for creating more customized and giving them an exposure to the vocabulary behind the labels. And these pieces are there and they have names. And also giving exposure on different ways and thinking on how to display their data. You can create this simple bar chart over on the left, or taking more of a macro level view, it's the same chart, and creating this little technique of creating the little split between on the y-axis, bringing up the different, giving a more of a micro level to seeing the data. And again, using that same bar chart, just creating different scales over on the y-axis on the left, or being able to split it up. And again, these are tools that you may have to use something like Illustrator to create these customized charts. And so during my courses, this is why I like to focus on the design thinking aspects and giving people more of an exposure of thinking about how the different ways to display their data can make them more effective. And different techniques, if you do have a tool that can export a vector visualization, bringing it into something like Adobe Illustrator, you can select the lines, you can gray them out to bring emphasis to the line that needs to be seen or understood. So I'm kind of empowering them to create the story they want to tell. And just giving them exposure, about being able to zoom in to their charts that they create to make them more effective or to emphasize points.
Michael, you're coming up on 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll try to speed it up. Something else I like to show are also different techniques on creating more compact visualizations of their data. So it is integrating labels into the bars or just different types of layouts. And let's see, I'm going to move on to a couple of student projects. One of the things I do also like to emphasize is staying away from chart junk, which is creating, 3D shapes and things that don't need to be seen. This is from one of my courses where we're playing with freeware Gephi. And, Gephi does export PDFs that you can open up in Illustrator. And being able to take these vector visualizations into Adobe Illustrator and being able to apply different layouts and colors to make a more effective visualization. This one, this is the exact same network chart. It's just been flattened and it's been turned into a London Underground map. So it's also bringing in different aspects of universal design there. Or creating charts from Tableau. And also, this one was spread out over 3 pages, and we bringing it into Illustrator, and we're able to bring that down to 1 page. This was an example of taking a report that needed to be on an 8.5 by 11 and needed to be seen all at once. And also creating infographics. So the one on the left was created in PowerPoint with some basic clip art, and then creating some customized icons, again, using Illustrator. So there's a lot of different design aspects. So we're using color, layout, labeling, and typography for conveying information. And from my title of this talk about the magic button, a lot of people think that these visualizations are created very quickly, when mostly to get to that minimalized effective visualization, there's a whole lot of work that nobody sees that went into creating that very minimalist looking infographic or network visualization. And of course, defining an audience and figuring out what exactly you want to say and who you want to say it, and who you want to understand your data. How am I doing on time?
We are coming up on a 1-minute warning.
Okay. And there is time for Q&A?
No, the 1 minute will be into the next talk, but I'm not seeing many questions in the Q&A or the chat.
Okay.
So,
yeah, there's a lot to go through, or a lot to take in, I think. But yeah, I mentioned the accessibility and tools. A lot of these that I bring in here at Virginia Tech are coming from section 508.gov, and finding not good color palettes that are ADA compliant or have good contrasts, and also being able to check them using this online tool. So all of these things, they just build into creating a deeper knowledge of visualizations, everything that goes into them, and creating a vocabulary of asking for either help or creating their own visualizations. It gives them aspects to research or Google and find out more, or come in to use my services at the library.
Thank you so much, Michael. And we do have one question, which I believe we have 1 more minute. So Emily Mann says, if someone without a lot of design experience wants to learn more, what resources would you suggest starting with?
That is a good question, because a lot of these are paid software. So before COVID, I would say come in and I would have a one-on-one session with you, or use something like now. It's mainly go to LinkedIn Learning, because our school has free accounts for the students for that. So now I'm sadly saying you should go to LinkedIn Learning and take some of these modules, sadly.